Hi, Mark here from the Tangibound Podcast Network and host of the flagship show, the Tangibound Podcast. Did you know that we over at Tangibound are always looking for amazing podcasts to promote? And did you also know that we are also proud nerds and geeks of everything from movies, music, gaming, TV shows, and comic books to wrestling, MMA, soccer, and football? Whatever you can nerd or geek out about, we've got it. And if you're interested, we can help you find it. And if you're a show looking for a place to call home, we've got you covered. Side effects may include upset stomach, dizziness, tumors, shakes, and in some rare cases, death from excessive laughter. Though to be fair, it's only sometimes. Other side effects may include diarrhea, gallstones, heart palpitations, and strong desire for cookies on the dark side. Talk to your doctor and visit TangiboundNetwork.com and see if Tangibound Network is right for you.
Hey, it's Brian.
And it's Tony.
From the Salty Language Podcast. We're a podcast with two friends that have, been around each other for like 70 years or something. And, we talk about kind of everything.
We're like a married couple that you hate.
Yeah, basically something like that. No, we talk about, just weird news, stuff that happens in our life, pop culture, really anything. It's, we just have a nice conversation and make up stuff along the way. So, yeah. And I guess, you can find us at saltylanguage.com.
For sure.
And
beer you'll be fine.
Well, also you can find us on dangerentertainment.net.
Danger! Watch your back! Danger!
Entertainment.net in case you missed it the first time. We're not doctors, therapists, trained professionals of any kind. So if you feel you do need help, please reach out and get the help you need. We have a whole list of things on our files page over on Facebook at facebook.com/crazylifepodcast. And, or just search on the internet for the suicide prevention hotline number, or, go to NAMI.org or, whatever resource you can find. But just please reach out for help if you need it. If you feel as though you're going to harm yourself or others, definitely reach out and try not to be alone. Also, if you, feel that way and you realize that you're writing a note or making plans of how you would do, like harm yourself or others, definitely reach out. That's a huge red flag. And lastly, please do not replace the idea of therapy with listening to this show. Again, if you need help, please reach out and get the help that you need, or contact us. We can try to help you find the help that you need. Hey, it's Brian.
And it's Tony.
From the Salty Language Podcast. We're a podcast with two friends that have, been around each other for like 70 years or something. And, we talk about kind of everything.
We're like a married couple that you hate.
Yeah, basically something like that. No, we talk about, just weird news, stuff that happens in our life, pop culture, really anything. It's, we just have a nice conversation and make up stuff along the way. So, yeah. And I guess, you can find us at saltylanguage.com.
For sure.
And
beer you'll be fine.
Well, also you can find us on dangerentertainment.net.
Danger! Watch your back! Danger!
Entertainment.net in case you missed it the first time.
Life sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. Life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time. Stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Welcome to the Crazy Life, everyone. My name is Jen. I am your host for the evening, and with me, as always, is Brian. Hey, Brian.
Howdy.
And Hanno couldn't join us this week. Unfortunately, he has been under a whole bunch of snow. And a whole bunch of snow.
Yeah.
So the poor guy has just been digging himself out for a long time.
You know what it is? It's that, I can't think of the name of it now, but it's that guy that has to push the rock up the hill only to have it roll all the way back down. That's essentially what Henno's going through with snow. So,
yeah,
poor guy.
Exactly. Poor guy.
Yeah.
So our heart goes out to Henno as he's dealing with all of the fun that is mountains of snow. So with that, do you want to start us off, Brian?
Yeah, I can. So I called this week to reschedule my therapy appointment since I missed the last one. And the woman on the phone's like, well, I don't know if I can schedule you for March. And I'm like, okay. I'm thinking maybe she's on vacation or whatever. Well, apparently my therapist is going to be moving up to management. So the woman she's like, I can schedule you. She's like, but it might change. She's like, I don't know for sure if she's doing therapy sessions after she moves up, basically. And I'm like, oh man.
That sucks.
Yeah. 'Cause like I was telling Tony, I was like, if this was just a regular doctor, like the, family doctor, whatever, I wouldn't care. I've seen enough of them that's like, whatever, But with the therapist, it's like I've spent 2 years now working with her, building that, Yeah. So it's like, man, I mean, whatever, it'll be fine, but it's just, and it's not like I'm not going to stop going because of that. If that's the case, odds are the place I go to will just plug someone else in there, and, I'll probably go see him and see if I click with him or not.
Mm-hmm.
But, I was like, man, it's like I'm trying not to future cast too much on it, but at the same, because it's like, I don't even have to, a lot of times you go, well, I need to prepare for what if she doesn't, but I don't, because like I said, they'll probably just plug someone else right into her spot, and I honestly probably will just go to that person, so nothing except for the person will really change, So I really don't have any reason to future cast, but it's still hard not to because, I don't.
Well, change is hard.
Yeah.
I mean, any change is hard, and something as personal as this, it's extra hard.
That's what makes it the hardest part is because, at first, I didn't want to open up much when, going in there, and it's like now I'll go in there and I'll talk about whatever, like I'll completely just be brutally honest with stuff with her because I know, at this point I know 100% it's a safe environment. So, and that kind of sucks to build again. On the upside, if it's in the same spot, at least that will feel the same, you know? So at least it won't be having to go to a new place where I feel uncomfortable for the first how many ever visits or something, So, yeah. So that kind of stinks, but, what can you do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's, been having another week of just depression just kicking my butt. It's really been rough. And, I'm hoping because it looks like we're kind of starting to see the weather turn, know, like we're not getting brutally cold at night. We're starting to, creep a little bit. So I'm hoping that with that maybe comes a little more sun and that maybe this will help me deal with this a little bit better. But boy, it has been rough this year. And I've heard from other people the same thing, that for some reason this year has been harder. I don't, no real reason why. It's just is. And yeah, I've had a few days this week that it was so hard to get out of bed. Just so hard. And, like yesterday, honestly, if it wasn't for having to post the podcast last night, I don't know if I would have gotten out of bed. So, yeah. But, like with anything, I keep fighting when I can and how I can. And that's about all I can do. It's just it. and just not be too hard on myself about it.
Exactly. You just got to keep pushing and keep fighting and, doing the best you can do, and then forgive yourself for when you can't meet your own expectations.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of it, this year may have to do with, like, I've really been feeling, for lack of a better term, worthless. Like I just don't feel like I'm
contributing.
Yeah. And it's just, and I know a lot of that, like I've said on here before, everything with me, all of my stress, almost every time, the root of it is money. When I've got a few dollars, even though I'm not rich, even if I got a few bucks, I'm different. When I'm at a point like right now to where I'm like, real broke, and again, it's like, and now I start sweating you sweat everything, every little cost is, so, and again, I understand, I'm still in a very privileged position, like, it's
important to not lose sight of that. But on the flip side, you're still entitled to have your issues and your troubles.
Right. So yeah, there was something else I was going to talk about, but I don't remember what it is now. But, it's just been just another rough week for me. And I don't know, the worst part is when I get into these, it's like, I don't know how to get out of them. Nothing really seems to work. I've gone out with friends and it was fun, but then I get back home and you kind of settle back into that feeling you had before. And there's kind of a little extra dip because of the pendulum swing of, social activity. While you're out, it's up, and then when you get home, it's down, and I'm already down. So it's, a little more down than normal. So yeah, that's, but that in the big picture, that stuff helps, because that's at least 2 days I didn't just sit at home and do, ruminate, it was at least out doing something. So yeah, but yeah, that's about all I can think of right now. So how about you?
Well, with me, I'm trying to think. Everything kind of blends together lately, if that makes sense.
Oh, it does, yeah.
I've just been kind of going through the motions and different things. A couple key things that jump out. Yesterday, I helped my dad celebrate his 70th birthday, which is pretty awesome.
Right. Yep.
He's doing well and enjoying his retirement. So,
good.
Which was really, really cool. So, got some good quality time in with my dad. But unfortunately after that, I had to go to the funeral home for a friend whose mother passed away.
Yeah.
And, funeral homes are really tough for me.
Yeah.
And you can relate. But they're just, I am very tuned with emotion, and emotions just wreck me, and especially sadness. When someone is sad or angry, those two seem to hit me really hard.
Yeah.
So even though I didn't know the woman all that well, we worked together for a very short time many years ago, but I knew her son pretty well. He's a friend of mine, and seeing him in pain, it just was hard. It was
sure.
All I could kind of hold things together internally, because I needed to be solid.
Yeah.
Because here's where I struggle. And a friend of mine I talked to online about this, because I cry a lot. We've talked about it on the show.
Mm-hmm.
I try not to. I'm a medicine to kind of help me not to cry a lot. But somebody mentioned, or my friend mentioned online, he's like, he just cries. He's like, I just cry. He's like, I just let it happen because I need to.
Yeah.
And I struggle with that.
Yeah.
Because I've been criticized and, and made fun of and gone through all of this stuff about my crying,
Mm.
and it's been held against me in so many different ways
Yeah.
that just can't just cry.
Yeah, because it's been essentially beaten into you that it's a weakness or a sign
it's
of
not
weakness.
appropriate.
Yeah, exactly. When in this situation, it's 100% appropriate, you know, because I'm sure there were plenty of other people crying, you know, because
Yeah.
it's sad.
But it's not appropriate to cry at this type of funeral because, you know, she was older and it was kind of expected. And, you know, the family wasn't crying. So if the family's not crying, why should I be crying?
Yeah.
You know, and all of this stuff goes through my head and all these justifications of why it's inappropriate for me to be crying in these circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, I wiggled my toes. And that helped. It helped, you know, to keep things under control and stuff. And my eyes welled up a few times, but I held it in. I held it down. And my husband went with me, which is always a good support for me. But I stayed about 45 minutes. And when we got to the car, I wasn't driving. I got to the car, and as soon as the door of the car closed, I'm like, oh my God, that was so hard. And my husband looked at me, he's like, what? I'm like, my insides are about ready to explode. My heart's going a mile a minute. My blood pressure is probably sky high.
Yeah.
And I am just ready to scream. Every fiber of my being was just freaking out. And he's like, you don't look it. You didn't act like it at all. I said, I'm that damn good.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you now, if you took my vitals, they'd be out of control.
Yeah.
And then promptly lit up a cigarette. So, which is not the answer. I'll own the fact that's exactly what I did.
Yeah.
Came home and had a whiskey.
Right.
Which, you
is
know.
also not an answer, but understandable. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, because I needed to dull things down because it was just too much.
Yeah.
And it just amazes me because I can only imagine this is what I'm going through right now with someone who I'm not very close with, you know, who died.
Yeah.
When it's someone that I am going to be close with that dies, which is going to probably happen in the next year or two, I'm guessing.
Yeah, maybe.
You know, I'm hopefully not, you know.
Right.
Odds are probably going to be in the next couple of years at most. And it's kind of got me thinking, like, what the heck am I going to do to kind of keep things in control?
Yeah.
And what skills do I need to start working on now to put myself in a better spot and better position?
You know, I can tell you one that's real easy, which is let others help.
Yeah.
Because if I wouldn't have done that with my dad, it would have been so much worse. You know, like that day, like you were bouncing around, you know, like getting people coffee and just making sure everything was running smoothly, basically. And it's just so much for me was just a blur. You know, even now looking back, there's more clarity, but so much of it is just a blur. But I remember, you know, the people who were helpful and stuff, because that made a huge difference. Because, you know, not only does it let you know that, you know, you're not doing this by yourself, but it also lets you know that, you know, people care about you and want to make sure that, you know, you're doing okay. So that's the best advice I think I can give you there. Also, I know you're not great at letting people help, so.
I am so not good at that.
No.
Because really, when it comes down to it, it's almost where I'd rather do it myself because I can have the control.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not good with letting others have the control.
Yeah.
And it's so tough for me because it's almost an extra stressor on top of everything is not being in the control position.
Yeah. I was real big on control and stuff too, but you kind of, like, certain things that aren't, like, right in front of your face in those situations just become blurs. So if you don't let someone else help you, that stuff isn't gonna, like, things don't get done, basically, if you don't, kind of let people help because you'll be so focused on what's going on. With you, that, if it was something, unfortunately, like with your stepdad or whatever, it's like your laser focus would be on your mom.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So there's the other stuff aside, the little periphery stuff that that it's not important enough, cause it's, your mom is paramount in that scenario. Everything else is after. And that's kind of the exact position I was in. To me, my mom was paramount. Sure. Everybody else, well, my mom and my grandma were paramount. Everybody else was, or everything else was like, it'll get done.
I'm gonna feel it.
Yeah. So anyway. Yeah.
So just kind of, brought to light some places that I would like to do some work. So,
yeah.
It's always good to have those moments, because that way there's always work to be done, internal work, and I'm always looking for those next opportunities. Like, where should I work? What should I work on next? Mm-hmm. And where should I continue work? And what needs the most help? People have told me, they're like, wow, you seem to handle things so well. And it's like, it's all because I keep working and putting the work in and putting more work in and building my toolkits, and just, it's all about work. And sometimes you just get tired and you don't want to do any more work. You just want to coast.
Yeah.
You just got to keep pushing at it and keep doing it and keep reading and keep, learning and growing. And
yep, like I say, keep chopping wood.
Yep, keep chopping wood, because the fire, you got to keep the fire stoked.
Yep, chop the wood, carry the water. Yep,
exactly.
Yep.
So that was kind of my big day during this last week.
Yeah, I couldn't go for a couple of reasons. One, you mentioned, like, funeral homes are really hard for me, but also that was at the same funeral home Spence was at, wasn't it?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I don't know if I could do that. I hate to be that way because I wanted to be there for him, but I just can't. It's just, that's still, that's one of those few things that, when you start to think about, still hurts as much as it did the day it happened. I just,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So anyway, let's move on from this.
Time for our episode. A little more upbeat than where we're at right now.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got the article today.
Oh yeah, that's right. I do. I'm like, just gonna let you start reading it. It's like, oh yeah, that's me. Yeah, we're going to talk about something that, I think I first mentioned on this show forever ago.
When it first began.
And yeah, and I said it, half joking. And I used the term positive narcissism. And, I know I had a few people laugh at it and stuff, but I was like, no, let's hear me out. Like, there are times where you do have to be, like, incredibly self-centered, or other people will see it as narcissism, but it's self-care, and so it is narcissism, but it's, it's good narcissism. Like, it's something you shouldn't avoid sometimes. So this one here is from Psychology Today, and it's called, the title of it is Healthy Narcissism. And it says, we all have an image of a narcissist, self-centered to the 10th degree, manipulation of relationships to be on top, to gain adoration, and others. At its core, it's about you in world, and the world is about you through a lens that is skewed and distorted. It says, here's the counter, the elements of what I'm calling healthy narcissism. He's calling it that, not me. The first point he has here is, don't worry so much about what others think of you. True narcissists do this yin-yang thing where they seem to not give a damn about what others think while caring deeply what others think of them. There's that old adage, in your 20s you worry about what everyone thinks of you, in your 40s you don't care what anyone thinks of you, and in your 60s you realize that no one thinks of you. There's truth in this, and narcissists seem to be stuck in their 20s. The healthy middle ground here is not caring what most people think of you, but caring a lot about what those close to you think about you. not in terms of your achievements and garnering praise, but in caring whether they feel respected by you, feel safe enough to be honest, open, and intimate with you, and feel that you sincerely care about their well-being.
That's the key, is the people you value are the opinions you need to value.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the people, if you don't value the person, then their opinion of you shouldn't really matter.
Yeah.
It's only those people that really, they matter to you. So hence their opinion should matter to you.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. It's, you know, it's hard to get to that point though. I think we all kind of know that, you know, it's hard to know that somebody like doesn't like you or whatever and just be good with it, you know?
There's that. It is tough. And I work, in a male dominant field and women are not necessarily as respected as they should be, but it comes with the territory. So it's not a surprise that there's people who do not like me as a person, which I get, and it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But the one thing I do ask is for respect, and respect the position if you don't respect the person, which is a tough one when you're dealing with that in the business world. Now, in a personal world, in your personal life, same thing is tried to be applied, but I think that just needs to boil down to, if you value them regardless of their position, if you value them in your life, then you need to value their opinion of you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really does cut down on the stressors.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you're not worried about, you know, you're not constantly, you know, living for other people or whatever at the time. You're just, you know, doing what you need to do. And like you said, worrying about your, you know, the people that are important to you or, you know, that matter. I mean, you know, cause clearly you care about, you know, a lot of people care about what their family and friends think, but then there's also you're going to a job interview, you know, so you care what that person thinks of you, you know, like it's not just necessarily like your inner circle that we're talking about here.
True. There's, you know, adjuncts, there's a variety of people that are outside the circle that need to matter.
Yeah. Number 2 here is don't take things personally. Narcissists take everything personally because the world revolves around them. They are hyper alert to any slight. They have a paranoid edge. The healthy counter to this is one where you see others not as better or worse than you, but as equals. People who, like you, are struggling to run their lives the best they can. It's about empathy. That's a great line about the, you know, struggling to run their lives, because it's amazing how many times we look at other people and go, wow, they've really got all their stuff together. And meanwhile, in their head, it's, you know, it's run, you know, like, don't fail, you know.
Got do.
Yeah. And it's, you know, they don't want to trip up somewhere, you know.
Mm-hmm. It's so easy, especially with social media right now. That's the big thing with social media is people putting on, you only put the one side.
Yeah.
On your pages. You know, you only are showing the positive, the good, the successful stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people aren't posting the negatives, which why should they? But, you know, who would want to post negative stuff? But the negative stuff is there, and you have to go a little bit deeper in understanding that what you see is not going to be the big picture. It's not going to be the full picture. So don't get too caught up in what you see.
Mm-hmm.
Just know that there's other things going on.
Yeah. There is also another point of that with the social media, which is the taking things personally thing is, and I think this applies to any sort of, not just social media, but any sort of a, like text message or social media or email or anything where it's not spoken word to where it's typed or written, because you can't pick up inflection and you can't necessarily, kind of a lot of times these things lose context, you know?
Yep.
So, you know, not taking things personally a lot of times, because there's many times where somebody will say something and really not meaning to slight someone, even though they might, you know, they didn't really, that wasn't the intent there. And it's, you see it all the time where somebody will make some comment and then somebody just, you know, gets really mad about it. And it's like, I wasn't, you know, like.
I live and die by my emojis. I love my emojis, and then I don't care if people give me a hard time about them or give me all sorts of flack about using too many. I don't care. I will surround my message with emojis so you know the emotion behind it.
Yeah.
You know, so you get my intent. If I'm joking, you will see 3 little laughy faces. And it's just, you know, I want to make sure that things are as clear as I can make them, because the last thing I want is to unintentionally insult or hurt somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so easy to do it that way. I actually was listening to a comedian the other night that was talking about that. He said he doesn't text his friend, like text people. He calls them. And he's like, that way they know exactly how I'm saying it, basically, you know, type of a thing.
Yeah.
And it's such a dying thing. I'll bet, you know, half the people listening probably cringed when I said calling, you know, like who does that? Yeah.
My brother actually texts me and he's like, when's a good time to call you?
Yeah.
He sets an appointment up to call me.
Hey, whatever,
and,
you know.
You know, and it does works for him and works for me and stuff.
Yeah.
He does the same thing with my dad. He's, you know, and he sets up an appointment with us so that way it's a good time. We're not bothered. We're expecting it, and we can actually have a conversation versus, you know, so otherwise we just kind of text back and forth.
Well, and it makes sense. That's what a lot of people like about texting is that, you know, I can text somebody. It doesn't matter if they're at work or not. Then at their leisure, they can text back, basically, or when, you know, when available. And, you know, whereas with a phone call, it's not the same. You know, you can call somebody and it's like, this is a bad time, you know, kind of a, you know, so you could just text and like, but with that, you're right. It does. It kind of it's a win for both of you. 'Cause, you know, it is set up to where he's not calling at a really inconvenient time because you've, you know, told him when. And this way he doesn't have to text with you if he doesn't want to.
Exactly. And with me, you know, I work nights, so for during the day, texting is really the best way to get to me, because that way I can answer when I wake up and it doesn't disturb me, because I have my texting on mute when I'm sleeping. My phones are not necessarily on mute because if there's an urgent call, I need to be able to hear it to get it.
Right.
Now, people know they can get to me through my husband. If they can't get me on my phone, they call his. So there's always the backup plan.
Right. That's why, like, I like the fact that if I know somebody who, like me, I sleep through the day. So before I go to sleep, I can fire off a text to somebody. And then when I get up, they've had a chance to respond during their normal hours. You know, I'm not catching, you know, we're not catching each other at weird hours, you know.
Exactly.
That works out quite nice. Whereas a phone call would not be appreciated at 4 a.m. most of the time.
You know, same thing with me. It's like the phone calls kind of have to be at some really funky hours.
Right.
But hey.
Yeah, exactly. The third one on here is focus on you. This is where narcissists get their reputation, by focusing on themselves and their impact on others all the time. The healthy version is focusing on you in the sense of putting your head down and running your own life based on your values. Having a healthy vision of a life filled with your passions, priorities, and goals. It's about you deciding the kind of person that you want to be.
Nice. And that's a big one for me, is being the person you want to be.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter what other people's opinions of your actions are if you are being true to who you want. Now, that being said, consequences are consequences are consequences. So if you take the action, you stand behind that action, you deal with the consequences.
Yeah.
No ifs, no ands, no complaints, whatever.
Right.
You know, it's like, I don't want to hear it. If you go into something fully well knowing what the consequences are and you do it anyways because you're okay with dealing with the consequences, well, power to you. I support your decision because that's what you need to do for you. I'm behind you.
Mm-hmm.
But the last thing I will not deal with is I will not deal with people complaining about a consequence to an action that they knew what the consequence would be.
Yeah.
So the only caveat I would say to that is sometimes the consequences are unfairly doled out.
Yeah.
You know, you expect to get the consequences, but it's not the same consequences across the board for everybody.
Yeah. Or it's like a game of poker. You can play a perfect hand. Like, you play it, you know, technically sound, 100% sound, and you still lose because the cards beat you. You know, like that just, I think, and it's kind of that way sometimes. You can do everything you're supposed to right. And how many of us, have, you know, you'll bust your butt on a project or something only to have your boss take credit for it or someone you work with take credit for it instead, you know, so.
Consequence.
Yeah, that's your consequences. Yeah, so.
That's no fun.
Yeah, but this is a really good one. And it is, you're right, it's a really tough one because you want to focus on yourself, again, like self-care and making sure that you're, like I said, your life's filled with, you know, your passions, priorities, and goals, the things you want to be and do. But you also, you know, while being aware of your surroundings.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, don't shut everybody down just so you can whatever, you know, kind of a thing. Like, you know, make sure you're still functioning, you know, in other parts of your life as well. The next one here is truly enjoy the company of others. The narcissistic enjoyment of others is only based on whether or not other people see me the way I see myself. About whether or not they give me the attention and praise that I deserve. Example, they don't really enjoy others unless it validates them. While narcissists may be at the extreme end of self-centered, there are those who are at the opposite pole, those who are passive or who walk on eggshells. They're afraid of confrontation, are afraid to define and state their needs and wants, and so live their lives, paradoxically like narcissists, actually shaped by others. The healthy antidote to the narcissistic side of this equation is to drop the manipulation and even expectations, and instead allow yourself to appreciate the person you are talking to for who or she they are, here and now, without thinking ahead to how can I steer this conversation towards me. Mm-hmm. The healthy approach for those who walk on eggshells is to step up and be assertive about what you need and want. Which is true, you know, and it's where, like you were talking about how, you know, like where you work or whatever, about how women aren't given the respect that they deserve or whatever. And it's like, I could see where this totally they would be seen as walking on eggshells. And then once they are like, no, I need this or this, it becomes a whole situation where, you know, they're referred to as something else. And, you know, because now they're mean or whatever. And it's like, no, they're not mean. They're just, they're telling you what they need or want from someone, you know, no different than anybody else.
Exactly.
Yeah. 'Cause you don't want to be the walk on eggshells person either. That was a really interesting point. I hadn't considered how realistically, how that works very similarly to, you know, being, narcissistic. About. So, yeah. Having said that, I do still feel like, you know, you're friends with people because they bring something to the table, you know. So I don't know exactly the balance on that, but you do need to, you know, because if somebody is just take, then, you know, why are you friends with them? You know, like what are they giving you that is worth all that, you know?
It's always it should be a give and take across the board.
Yeah.
It might be equal give and take, but it still should be some give and take.
Yeah. Number 5 here is take responsibility for your actions. Narcissists rarely take responsibility for their behaviors, but instead push back, deflect, and blame others. The healthy approach is one where you accept responsibility for your decisions and actions, where you don't see yourself as the perpetual victim, where you apologize when you inadvertently hurt someone's feelings. But like number 4, this doesn't mean that you go to the opposite end of the pole and grovel to others, assume that everything is your fault, constantly beat yourself up for making the mistake of getting others upset. Instead, you reach the middle ground of admitting mistakes but hold firm to what is important to you. Thinking about and looking out for you are part of good mental health. It's about assertiveness, being focused, being proactive, in contrast to always accommodating others, being scattered, or endlessly reactive to everything that goes on around you. The healthy middle ground is, once again, the middle ground.
A perfect example of this one, when I was younger, a good friend of mine, we were out and I said something that she took the wrong way and got very upset with me, but didn't tell me. And when we went to say goodbye, we were on a big group, and when we said goodbye, she's like, I go to give her a hug. She's like, no, I just don't even want to hug you right now. And so I took a step back. I'm like, okay. And we all kind of just left and went our own way. And it really bothered me, really upset me. And so I reached out to her. I said, I'm not really sure what I did, but I'm sorry if I said or did something that upset you. And she told me what was said. And I said, well, I apologize for upsetting you, but that's not what I meant. And I explained what I meant. I said, and honestly, I'm kind of upset with the fact that you didn't bring this to me instead of bringing it up and let's addressing it and stuff. You instead were, going to internalize it and hold it against me. I figured we were better friends than that, and that you would give me the benefit of the doubt that I wouldn't intentionally say something that would hurt you. Mm-hmm. And so we went back and forth for a minute, and she ended up apologizing for that and saying, you know what, you're right. She's like, I immediately took it wrong and ran with it instead of putting it in perspective and thinking about who said it and how it was said. And I said, yeah. And I said, hey, I own my part of it. I'm not saying I don't. I'm sorry if what I said bothered you, because that's never been my intention. But so we ended up coming to a very healthy, I would think, resolution to the whole situation. But it was interesting because unlike my normal position, which is I am usually more apologetic than I am anything in most situations, this particular one, I decided to do both. Be apologetic, of course, but also stand my ground and stand for what I believe in.
Right. It makes sense to me because it's, like you had said earlier when we were talking here, it's, you can do whatever you want, but there are repercussions for it. And, like that person just assuming what you meant, is what caused them the problem. Mm-hmm. Maybe you could have worded something better, blah, blah, blah. That's your end of it. Like you said, you take your responsibility in it. But from the other side, it's like, you gotta, why did you jump immediately to worst case scenario? Exactly. Again, the problem there is, like you said, not coming to you and communicating, but just automatically assuming the worst and running with it. Which is, very not healthy.
No.
So, but easy to do. We've all done it. There's always been, we've all had something where someone said something, you immediately just, get mad or run with it. It happens. But yeah, this is, you're right. Like you stood your ground, but you also apologized to it, And this is a balance that I've had a lot of issues with over the years, because I'm a fixer. So when there's a problem, the first thing my head does is assume I caused it. And now it's, well, how can I fix it? Even if it's, or even if I don't assume that it's my fault, still I want to fix it. But if I do make somebody upset or whatever, it's like I beat myself up for the longest time. It's either that or I'm the opposite way to where, I'm very stand my ground and, whatever, which in the long run ends up being just as bad, because sometimes the extremes. Like, I'm talking, like, not that that I'm in the middle ground. I'm one of the extremes, or, you know, a little further one way or the other.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's difficult because, you know, it's very off-putting to other people when you're just constantly assertive, you know, and, you know, you come across as kind of a jerk that way, and it's easy enough to do. So, yeah, like you said, or like it says here too, you know, it's like the key there is finding that middle ground to where, you know, you're assertive, you know, it's very much, you know, pick your hill, you know, but also don't let somebody walk all over you, but also don't walk all over someone else, you know?
Right. Exactly.
Again, good communication usually helps with that, you know?
So many things comes back to communication. Just communicate.
Mm-hmm.
Just have that healthy, open communication with people, and it just makes the biggest difference.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, that's all of them on here.
All right.
So.
Awesome. Well, I don't know. What do you think? I think it was a pretty good episode.
Yeah. I got one more thing to talk about real quick before we get to
Absolutely.
the end stuff. A few days ago, the news came out that a comedian by the name of Brody Stevens died, and it looks, the last I read anyways, it looks to have been an apparent suicide. And he struggled with bipolar for a long time. And, you know, as always, I just always want to say, you know, if you're feeling like that, please reach out for help. There's tons of people, like, the next day on Twitter, there's so many comedians and different people that are basically like, I wish I knew, you know, kind of things. And, you know, and going back to your part in things, it's like, well, did you ask somebody? Did you check in on them? That's why I'm always like, check in on your friends, make sure things are going okay. Because it's sad, you know, he was a funny guy, but again, you know, it's that old double-edged sword, you know, make people laugh because you don't want them to feel as dark as you do. So it's, you know, it's a sad thing. A lot of comedians are, you know, really saddened by this because he was a very well-liked comedian. But anyway, like I said, most of it's just about, you know, reach out if you need help. If you feel like you can't control things yourself, even if you think you can control things yourself, keep people informed, keep them in the loop, because there's times when you think you're in control and you don't realize how bad you're spiraling. Other people may see that for you, you know, but they can't if you won't let them in, you know. So just remember, there's a lot of people out there willing to help you, even if they're not friends and family. There's strangers out there willing to listen to you via the crisis hotline things, whether you have to go to a hospital and get help, whatever it is, there's people committed to helping you. So, you know, just please, if you can, reach out and try not to let your story end the same way.
Absolutely. And know you're worth it. You're worth the help. You're worth the work.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need to hear that.
Yeah. Like I said, I get it. You know, you hit a point where things hurt and they're so dark that you only see the one way to make it stop. And, you know, it's sad. I've been there. I know plenty of people who've been there, you know. It's just, you know, if you don't want to do that, then there's help out there for you. So, anyway.
Well, on that note, if you want to continue the conversation with us, you know how to do it. You can reach us at the Crazy Life Podcast at outlook.com is our email address. The Crazy Life Podcast.weebly.com is our email address, or is our web address for our website. You can reach me on Twitter at Jen's Crazy Life. That's Jen with a G. If you want to hear more from me, you can also listen to my other podcast, Shake the Sheets, at shakethesheets.com. And you, Brian, how can they reach you?
Well, really quick, they can reach Henno at Ida Henno on Twitter. And on Facebook, he's at Henno Heiter. You can also check out his other podcast called Gotham Lights, where they do reviews of episodes of Gotham and Orville Lights. So if you like either of those shows, go give them a check, or go check them out. You can find this podcast on Twitter also at the Crazy Life Pod, where I post when new episodes go up. You can check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/group/Crazy Life Podcast. You can find me on Twitter at StuNami. You can find the other podcast I'm part of at salty_language or at saltylanguage.com. That show is not safe for work, so be careful where who's around when you're listening. Yeah, I think that's, we're part of the Danger Entertainment Network, which can be found at dangerentertainment.net. And we're also part of the Tangent Bound Network, which can be found at tangentboundnetwork.com. So please go check out those networks, and you may find some other shows that you're interested in. And then we would also very much appreciate it if you would rate, review, subscribe through however it is that you get the show. It helps us out, or, whatever. I don't know. It's just what all the podcasts say, so I guess that's what we say. And, and I already went through the, reach out to people spiel, but, just, as I say every week, let's just try to be kind to one another and to ourselves.
And you know what? I'm going to put a challenge out there for everybody. I know not everyone's touchy-feely and all that good jazz, but try to hug at least one person this week.
Consensually.
Yes, consensually. Please, consensually. But,
just don't run up to strangers hugging them.
But find someone that you care about or whatever, and just give them a hug.
Yeah.
And just give them a squeeze, because I think we get too far away from human connection, and sometimes that's all we need is just to connect, and on a personal level and a physical level. That touch can make the world a difference. So,
yep.
With that, go out and have a fabulous week, everybody. I'll see you here next week.